In the previous video of this series, I covered Season 3 of Infinity Train, detailing the complex characters and themes at play with Grace and Simon's characters, while also detailing why I believe Season 3 of Infinity Train to be one of, if not the darkest season of TV that Cartoon Network has ever produced. Season 4 of Infinity Train is not that. In fact, in many ways, it is the complete tonal opposite to Season 3. At this point, going from Season 1 to Season 3, the show was ramping up in terms of dark themes and moments that they were willing to show us. So in many ways, Season 4 isn't necessarily a retraction of those themes, but rather a return to something closer to the lighter elements of Season 1 and 2. For this reason, it is often referred to as a breather season, since it's sandwiched in between the mature drama that is Season 3 and the next season of the show, which, well, we'll get there when we get there. Because of this massive tonal shift, depending on who you ask, Season 4 is either one of their favorite seasons of the show, or one of their least favorites of the show. Now, where do I fall on this spectrum? Well...
on a wire. One tries to fly away, and the other watches him close from that wire. He says he wants to as well, but he is a liar.
Regardless of how people feel about Season 4, I have seen one common consensus between supporters and detractors alike. The first episode starts off strong. The episode starts with a series of flashbacks depicting two boys, Mingi Park and Ryan Akagi. The two boys' fathers meet while they're in the NICU, and from there the two boys become childhood friends via their families. They eventually find a shared passion in music and formed a two-person band together. It was...
5, 6, 11, 12. I'm gonna dress my cat in a toque. I'm gonna dress my dog in a toque.
about as good as you could expect for two kids. However, by their very first performance, we can already see parts of what would be Mingi and Ryan's defining problems throughout the series. Ryan's dad remarks in the NICU that, in contrast to Mingi being his parents' first kid, Ryan's dad
can't get off the ferry without tripping over another one.
As such, from a very young age, Ryan has had to fight for his parents' attention, which was already divided over 8 other siblings. This is also likely part of the reason why Ryan wants to become a musician, to finally get the praise he needs from being the center of attention while also expressing his passion. On Mingi's end, while his parents were supportive of his music to a degree, they would also encourage him to be more serious about it, calling his stylophone a toy while also encouraging to pick up a real instrument like the viola. From the start, the two kids had very different influences with their passion for music, but they did still share that passion. The flashbacks continue to when the two are teens, with Ryan still all in on his dream of becoming a rock musician, and Mingi slowly being pushed towards a proper education, a proper instrument, and a proper life. But Mingi's passion for the band is still there. For now. It all comes to a head when the two sign themselves up for the Battle of the Band in the 80s. Oh, by the way, it's the 80s right now. Keep that in mind. The two are about to go on and perform in front of the first real crowd they have ever performed in front of. After Mingi arrives late, the two...
Amazing.
Yeah, no, this is probably just a friendship at best. From what I was able to research, this isn't like a lake kind of thing, where there's an actual allegory at the heart of Ryan and Mingi's story. And this isn't also a Simon and Grace kind of thing, where we have tangible proof they were planned to be a couple at one point, so this is likely just embarrassment. Still though, embarrassment or not, boyfriends or not, just roommates or not, 5 feet apart or not, it's still incredibly wholesome. Until Mingi completely runs away from the show. Before they go on, Ryan tells Mingy that his dad finally let him have the van, so the two are officially good to go on their rock and roll road trip. However, up until that point, Mingy thought that that was just a fantasy at best, and after years of preparing for a real job, a real education, and a real life, he gets overwhelmed by this new reality and just leaves, completely abandoning Ryan. And from there, we get what is probably one of the best scenes in the entire show. We get a montage of Ryan and Mingy's lives over the next few months with this really cool split-screen framing device. While Ryan travels the country bumming around doing his middling solo gigs, unfulfilled being a one-man show, Mingy bums around Powell Lake working a part-time job at the diner he and Ryan used to visit, while Mingy tries to find a college to apply to. But despite his life being more quote-unquote realistic, Mingy still finds time to play his stylophone, still clearly passionate about music. At multiple points, the shots in this montage perfectly line up with each other, like this shot of the diner menu lining up with the road Ryan is driving on, or the phone booth mirror shot. And then, as both of their lives become more and more unsatisfying, it all comes together with undoubtedly my favorite shot in the entire show.
Ryan?
The way the calm blues and grays of Mingy's world contrasts with the vibrant oranges and purples of Ryan's world, combined with their differences in attire, just cement how separated they are at the start of this story. And the way the split screen slides out of frame as Ryan re-enters Mingy's life? Peak. While there is some initial awkwardness after not seeing each other for months, Ryan and Mingy quickly get back into their old dynamic, which was exactly what Ryan was hoping for. See, much like how they talked about all of those years ago in the very booth that they sit in right now.
It was that booth. Are you sure it was that one? Yep, that booth.
Okay, fine, whatever. Just like how they had talked about all those years ago, Ryan got a show in New York City, their dream spot from when they were younger. And Ryan gives Mingy a ticket to go and perform with him. However, when Mingy rejects the plan, naturally unready and unprepared for the shift in plans, things quickly turn sour. Mingy asserts that music was always Ryan's dream and that he can't just pack up and go on a whim, while Ryan mocks Mingy's half-hearted prospects of being a financial risk analyst. It results in Ryan stealing Mingy's keys and running all the way to the train station, getting aboard the train to nowhere. And thus, the premise of this season is set up. The first season established the number system for passengers to work on their problems. The second season expanded on how that system impacted denizens, and the third season experimented with the mystery of Hazel's dimmed-out number, while also showing what numbers could be at their very extreme. This season continues to iterate by having Mingy and Ryan's numbers depend on each other. While Mingy and Ryan can individually progress their numbers, they ultimately have to work with each other and solve their issues with each other and themselves in order to get their exit. And I really love that concept. It takes the therapy-like arcs of most characters and turns it into couples therapy essentially. It's a really neat premise and a strong note to start this season off on. Also, small note, Amelia is here. And working for 1-1, but working for 1-1 before she has her arc with Tulip? Anyways, we open the next episode with Mingy and Ryan waking up after their pod supposedly crashes, and when they come to their senses, allow me to introduce you to many people's sticking point with Season 4. Kez the Talking Bell. Kez the Talking Bell is probably hands down the least popular and most hated character in Infinity Train, and that is honestly not unfounded. Despite having a great voice actor with solid deliveries, for reasons we will get into later, she is written to be an annoying character, with her entire thing being that she is a generally decent person, but irresponsible at best, and actively egocentric at worst. Now, she isn't a Simon-level character, where she thinks she is always right even when she is gleefully committing murder or anything near that extreme. But rather, she is emotionally immature to the point of not recognizing the consequences of her actions, and she doesn't know how to make up for her mistakes. Now, is that a solid setup for an arc? Sure, but personally, a character being written to be annoying is... well, frankly, it's annoying. It's like Baby Park from Mario Kart. This course is designed to be as frustrating as possible to play on, and for what it's worth, they did it. They made a course that actively frustrates me to the point of not wanting to play it. Great job. You tried to punch me in the face, and your fist did land against my jaw. You did your job. Hooray for you. I'm going to find you. I am going to find you, and I am going to... Back to the actual story. Because Ryan and Mingy's pod crashed, Kez decides to explain what is going on. Poorly. However, during her explanation, one of the failed metaphors she tries involves Ryan and Mingy
in like a secret pocket that opened up in your world, and you like climbed inside, and it's like in the pocket. Whoa, here's some keys, here's some lint.
We know for a fact that each train car on the train has its own separate pocket dimension, but this would then also imply that the space around the train is also a pocket dimension as well. This, combined with the fact that passengers age, adds to the fact that this train is a tangible, real place, and it isn't some Wizard of Oz dream sequence or coma. The three are then interrupted by some fish people who are trying to chase Kez for messing with the climate of the train car, turning it into an iceberg. Also, side tangent, for some reason these fish people do not look like Cartoon Network characters for me. They look like they're drawn as Disney TVA characters, specifically like some sort of offshoot alien creature that Dan Povenmire would use in like Phineas and Ferb or something. After messing around with the thermostat some more, they find that it isn't actually changing temperatures, but rather changing the time period of the car, going from the Ice Age to a volcanic era to a dinosauric era. Tuba? Tuba, is that you? Tuba, it's been so long. Where have you been? What are you doing? They shift through several eras, bickering the entire time, before going so far that the fish creatures are now just eldritch floating eyes. Eventually, while squabbling with each other, they go into the future to a point where they set the car back to normal. However, the alien creatures that were once guest stars in Hamster and Gretel are still pissed about being sent all over time, which is valid, frankly, and continue to chase the three, running them out of the car. When the three exit, we get a solid ending scene mirroring Tulip from Season 1, where Ryan and Mingy look out onto the wasteland with confusion and concern. However, this time, Kez gives an actually comprehensible explanation. At the same time, Kez also calls out Ryan and Mingy's antagonistic natures towards one another, but the two quickly correct her that they're actually best friends. They weren't fighting, they were just talking. Everything's fine. They're great. Yep. Picking up immediately where the last episode left off, the three go from being chased by a group of aliens who hate Kez to being cornered by a posse of insectoid cowboys, ... I literally wrote ... who hate Kez. I'm starting to notice a theme with these episodes. The Wild West setting is one of my favorite aesthetics for stories, especially when it comes to incorporating fantasy-like aspects to it. Specifically, this car reminds me a lot of the movie Rango, with the various species of animals all living in this western setting. In general, it surprises me that Infinity Train took this long to get to a western-themed car, and I really like how it was executed. Mingy and Ryan frantically try to explain that they aren't with Kez and that she just followed them in. But of course, a chase ensues. Looking for shelter, the three burst into a saloon, where they see even more of these insectoid cowboys, as well as— oh god damn it! Alright, look, I'm not trying to be the fun police or anything, but in Season 1, Samantha was a decent side antagonist. Nothing great, but not bad either. In Season 2, her cameo was nothing special, basically just boiled down to showing what she was doing after the events of the first season. Fine, whatever. In Season 3, however, she had actual development and characterization as part of Simon's backstory, and it was her best appearance yet. But her showing up in a tavern in an insect-themed saloon just feels really forced. It feels like she's here solely to give exposition on Ryan and Mingy with no regard of why she's even there in the first place. She was established in the last few seasons to be a hoarder and traveling salesperson / huckster, but now she's just a barkeep at a saloon? Because we needed clarification of the obvious fact that their numbers were synced, which both Ryan and Mingy and the audience already knew.
I needed that. I needed that too. You're pushing your luck, Scoob.
Well, anyways, the cat folds and turns them into the sheriff when she hears that there's a bounty out for Kez. Anyways, Kez immediately breaks her cage and slips out of the prison. She says she'll go get help for the two, but she never comes back. I think I see why people hate her. Using the wires from her broken cage to make a hook to get the keys, it gives Ryan and Mingy the space and time that they need to talk to one another. When talking about their parents and whether they know where the two are or not, we get more confirmation of Ryan's loneliness, being a relatively neglected kid. It isn't that Ryan isn't loved or anything, but rather he just wasn't given enough attention between all of his other siblings. His parents simply didn't have that kind of bandwidth. The two eventually get the keys, and right as they're escaping, there's this bit where the guard walks into the prison, disposing of the molted skin that was serving as a decoy while he ditched work. Okay, that's pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. But it's alright. It's okay. Ryan and Mingy aren't going to die. They're just being sent to court, where we find out that the Caterpillar sheriff who arrested them is also the judge who will be sentencing them. Now this is what I call American justice. Yeehaw!
Order! That means shut your dang mandibles.
Wait, what do you mean that's character actress Margot Martindale? How did I never notice that before? Never mind, this episode may just be peak. The two try to defend themselves, and halfway into Ryan's botched attempt at a testimony, and Mingy's complete and utter exhaustion, the two are ruled as guilty and sentenced to death by the Bug Zapper. All on Kez's behalf for defacing their town constitution with a tea stain. Okay, I know I just made a joke about being aggressively American, but that does seem incredibly justified. But it doesn't matter, because in the nick of time, Kez comes back to distract the town posse and bail the two of them out, sending the judge into the Bug Zapper, finishing her off. Okay, well, she's not dead, but even if she was, it's insane how this would barely be in the top 5 most messed up deaths in the entire show. Regardless, the three leave town, with Ryan and Mingy electing to keep Kez along their journey, bonding, laughing, and lowering their numbers, ending the episode. The next car the three find themselves in is this weird kitchen car with segments of the kitchen suspended in anti-gravity. Surprise, surprise, but someone in this car hates Kez. Again. However, instead of it being some weird alien creatures or western cowbugs, it's instead...
Treats for pig babies!
Wait a minute.
Have you brought something tasty for pig baby?
None of you And I mean none of you know just how fucking much I love Pig Baby. Margot Martindale making a guest appearance on a relatively small Cartoon Network show, that's to be expected. She's character actress Margot Martindale, for Christ's sake. That's her shtick. But J.K. Simmons, one of the most iconic actors of our time, who is responsible for some of the most memorable performances in pop culture? Pig Baby. He's a pig, but he's also a baby. Hiring him to speak at an event costs upwards of $500,000. I shudder to imagine what his billing was for this show. More than that, his agent likely put a stack of scripts and roles in front of him, and for some reason, J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, Stanford Pines, Terrence Fletcher, Nolan Omni-Man Grayson said, "Yeah, I want to follow up one of the most popular voice acting roles in recent Western animation a month later with the part of Pig Baby." I love this show. Alright, this show. This is an episode of an entire show that I'm supposed to be reviewing. Yeah, this is kind of a joke episode where they have to bake food for Pig Baby and escape when Pig Baby's cow mom tries to make them stay in the train car forever. Wow, that sentence isn't even close to being in the Bible. The only real takeaways from this episode, aside from the obvious, are this bit right here.
Ew. Warm banana mayonnaise salad?
Americans, man. Great music, disgusting post-war food.
And there's this cute scene that immediately leads to a misconception on Mingy's part, where he assumes that since both of their numbers went down when they bonded over brownies and when Ryan learned a lesson, that somehow meant that Mingy was supposed to teach Ryan how to be better, which immediately results in both of their numbers going back up, since they're both supposed to be learning from this. I know the analysis and summary for this one episode is a bit sparse, but I mean, can you blame me? 100% of my bandwidth is going towards the best character in fiction right now.
Pig Baby doesn't like that food?
Who in their right mind enjoys post-war American food?
Peak cinema. The next episode opens with what is perhaps the hardest, evilest, most dangerous car on the entire train.
It goes in the square hole.
Going off of the last episode, since the two are under the impression that Mingy is supposed to be guiding Ryan throughout the train, Mingy is helping him with the puzzle in an extremely smug and condescending way, while Ryan just has to grit his teeth and bear it. It doesn't take long, but the two eventually solve the baby puzzle that Kez solved when she was baby, and they all move on to the Daft Punk car. Oh, that's why this season is unpopular. All of these astronaut-looking people are in line for this massive party where both the exit and Kez's friends are located. Mingy insists on waiting in line, whereas Ryan and Kez, being less than authority-respecting people, want to jump the line instead.
Listen to me. We got this.
She's a belle. Why was that warm?
Okay, I've alluded to it both subtly and not so subtly in the past few episodes, but credit where it's due, this season is supposed to be a lighthearted breather season, and it really excels on that front. Since we're about halfway into this season, I can firmly say that just off of these first 5 episodes alone, Season 4 is by far the funniest season in the show. While Season 2 had Alan Dracula carrying most of the comedy on his servant back, the main trio in Season 4 are definitely the most well-rounded and best suited towards comedy. Between Ryan's dramatic bullshit, Mingy's dry, exhausted humor, and Kez's absurdity, it all blends together for a very funny package for me. Back to the episode at hand. When Ryan's smooth-talking charisma doesn't work, Ryan tries whatever he can to find a different way into the club. all of which end up failing, much to Mingy's snide flippance. As part of Mingy's tired advice, we hear him say,
"If you just do everything you're supposed to do, you'll eventually end up where you need to be."
which signals to us his main problem. All of his life, he was pushed towards learning a proper instrument, pushed towards a proper college degree, pushed towards working a proper job with disrespectful patrons, and he just dealt with it because he viewed all of it as necessary to his success and development. If he just put up with all of this, he will eventually find a life that he can be proud of. But while the two are arguing, this time Mingy gets a reality check.
Whoa! They're all dead?
You can mess up even if you stand still.
It's at this point the two finally know for sure that the number belongs to both of them. They are both supposed to learn in order to get off the train. Moreover, they're supposed to learn from each other, but that means Mingy has to take in as much as he puts out, which given his lack of an actual apology, he clearly isn't ready for. But for the time being, the two come to a middle ground as they agree on a plan, dressing themselves up as the astronauts while pretending that they're in a band playing the club venue. They attempt, for the second time, to sneak into the club. After all, what's the worst that can happen? Ignore that. Thankfully for the both of them, the act works, and the two get into the club. From here, it is nothing but the exit. The worst is behind them.
They shouldn't, lock until you
Now this is something. The last episode ends, and this one starts with the car the trio are in being hijacked by the steward. Kez completely shuts down as a denizen while the car is being warped, and Ryan and Mingy are stuck in place. Keen-eyed viewers might have recognized the boots that the two are wearing, because they are the same kind that Simon used to wear in the 2 prior seasons. While at the time it was just simply an innocuous and cool piece of tech that he seemingly found, much like the grapple packs that the Apex used, here their true purpose is revealed. As a part of the denizens' uniforms that were standard on the train at the time of this season, those gravity boots were meant to lock passengers in place, likely to prevent them from progressing and interfering with any maintenance. But since we know at this time that the steward is a mindless robotic killing machine, Ryan and Mingy getting locked down in place is chilling. Or at least it would be had it not been for...
This is a train-wide announcement. Your belongings are yours again. That's all.
We hear in the background of the steward's built-in speaker that Amelia is bickering with someone, likely 1-1, about how the train should be run. We're treated to more and more clues and hints about Amelia's rise to power on the train, likely as a way to build up to the next season, which... again, we will get there. With the steward gone, the trio is able to progress into the next car. However, they come across an additional snag in their plan. See, Mingy and Ryan promoted themselves as a band in order to get into the club. Now people are expecting them to play as a band. It's crazy, I know. The two elect to go through with it though, since, after all, they have to work together in order to get their numbers down somehow. Along the way, we also finally get to meet Kez's friends. ...
One time is funny, 2 times is fucking annoying, no?
Who hate Kez? Wait, they hate her? We see that Kez's friends, who she has been hyping up, are actually incredibly mean to her. And that Kez kinda just has to put up with it. I mean, at least I'm pretty sure it's clear that they're assholes. I mean, this guy's probably voiced by James Corden or something. That guy's a dick. While Ryan is quick to get adjusted to the vibe of the party, having played several just like it, Mingy is pretty closed off and unsure of himself since this is all new territory to him. That said, with Ryan's genuinely kind support, the two quickly fall back into old habits. It's clear that despite this all being scary and new territory for him, Minky genuinely wants to play his music in front of people. But when he feels the keys to the diner in his jacket pocket, it's also clear that he's still incredibly insecure about his passion and talent. It gets so bad that, not for the first time, moments before the two are supposed to play, Mingy panics and runs off. While Ryan is initially pretty pissed, justifiably so, when he sees Mingy curled into a ball in the bathroom, the two sit down and have a genuine heart-to-heart about what's wrong and why Mingy is so afraid to play. Mingy laments that even if they play well enough to get off the car, even if they get off the train, even if he joined the band and the two became megastars, it just wouldn't be practical.
We're just two Asian guys from BC in a band called Chicken Choice Judy. Can you think of anybody doing what we want to do who look like us?
This wasn't in the script initially because I didn't know how or even if I should be the one to talk about it, but one of the more understated parts of Minky's character is his cultural identity. I'm not super qualified to talk about it because A, I'm white, not Asian, and B, I'm Minnesotan, which is basically Diet Canada. But from aspects like Minky's parents pushing him to learning the viola, a proper instrument, and aspects like the customer getting Minky's name wrong, one of the more subtle aspects of Minky's character revolves around him finding a way to embrace his cultural identity without falling into the stereotypes and pit traps of that identity. Now, as for the quality of this part of his arc, I really have no say on whether it's good or not, but it is still an important part of his arc. But when Ryan cites YMO, or Yellow Magic Orchestra, an actual real-life Japanese synth band from the time Season 4 takes place that then went on to score multiple platinum albums, Mingy is reassured, and the two finally play their set. To a crowd of no one because everybody left. Whoops. Well, that's not fair actually, because Kez is still around. So in the comfort and privacy of just the bathroom, the two play music for her. It's a quiet, heartfelt, and sweet moment that makes her feel better, makes both of their numbers go down drastically, and introduces us, the audience, to a melody that we will hear a little bit later. Continuing the momentum from the last episode, the two spirits are higher than ever, which means absolutely nothing can stop them now. Except for the writing style of the show, because no, we cannot have nice things. The entire episode is set in this art exhibit, and more so than even the ball pit episode from season 1, there's this underlying tension to the entire episode. The temperature in the car is low, the exhibit is abandoned despite everything being clean and organized, and despite bonding in the last episode, things are still off with Ryan and Minky. But not to worry, because Ryan has already figured out the car. It's the Super Mario painting portal shtick. This car will be an absolute oh, no, okay. Nope, it is just an art exhibit. Okay. The entire time Minky is in this car, he is freezing, argumentative, and an overall detriment to their success, being unnecessarily nasty to Ryan. With Minky playing the role of the straight man in the group, he has been blunt in the past, specifically in episode 5 where he said some pretty harsh things to Ryan, but that was after supposedly hours of sitting around waiting for Ryan to come to his senses. This is different though. This is unnaturally short-tempered of him. And as Ryan walks away, we see a shadow creeping on Minky, indicating that on some level, the three aren't alone in this car. Kez tries to do her best to play intermediary between the two, much to Ryan's dismay.
Just let Mama Kez fix everything.
Her kisses are warm.
callbacks, baby. When she tries to ask Mingy what's wrong and what has changed in the past few minutes, he remarks that one song in the bathroom is not enough to repair Ryan leaving town, coming back, and roping him into this. But he hasn't just regressed back to thinking Ryan is the only problem. He goes even further, saying that Ryan has been letting him down for 18 years, aka both of their entire lives. On top of that, now Ryan is acting mean, calling Mingy a loser and dead weight, with both vowing to never end up like the other. All of this, combined with the continuously creeping shadows, creating this unmistakable vibe that something is just wrong. And as the tension swells and swells and swells and swells, we finally see the Dosent. When Ryan and Kez accidentally leave the car after seeing the exit in one of the hanging sculptures, that just leaves Mingy alone in the car. Now fully separated, the Dosent appears and attacks Mingy. While Infinity Train has had plenty of scary moments and twisted characters, the Dosent, without exaggeration, is the most terrifying thing in Infinity Train. A giant monster made out of arms that slowly gets people to isolate themselves as they spiral deeper and deeper into negativity. It's a type of psychological horror that I find to be particularly effective. What's more, because the Dosent is made out of arms and hands, some of the arms have numbers on them. But much like Hazel's from last season, they are completely dimmed out. But not because they're not passengers, but because they are no longer alive. Give it up for the Breather season, everyone! The Breather season! This was just supposed to be light before we got into some heavy stuff in season 5. The Breather season! Watching from outside the car, Ryan continues to pound on the barrier, keeping him out of the car as he looks on in horror at this abominable monster. But despite how terrified he is, he keeps trying to find a way in. Despite everything that has been said and done, Ryan refuses to leave his best friend. He will not abandon him again. And just like that, his exit appears. Ryan, finally being concerned for Mingy's well-being above his own, gets the opportunity to go home. However, in a really neat twist, counterproductively, when he considers taking his exit, his number shoots right back up and prevents him from leaving. On Mingy's end, inches away from succumbing to the Dosent, he sees the exit in the sculpture like Ryan did and reaches out towards it. Upon doing so, he is also transported out of the train car. The two reunite, with Ryan immediately rushing over to him, but in Mingy's eyes, the damage is done.
You left me.
The next episode is miserable. It's miserable. I'm sorry, it's just miserable. This is probably my least favorite episode of the entire season, if not the entire show. Kez is really trying her best to cheer up and guide Ryan and Mingy, but instead she's only annoying them in the process, with Ryan and Mingy being even further back from square one than they started the season at. They also do the classic trope of, no, your life and your struggles are easier. I've had to suffer way more. Look at me, I'm in more pain. Which is just... Come on, this show is better than that. It's not that I dislike this for being tense or anything. Season 3 had a bunch of tense moments with interpersonal conflict. However, I found those appealing because we really only saw Grace and Simon on a downward trajectory with communications breaking over time. Here, this feels like a complete regression in a way that isn't satisfying. Ryan's solo career being an unsuccessful train wreck is not news. Mingy already threw that in his face. And Mingy's unfulfilling life with his parents and a job he doesn't want is also not news, because Ryan also threw that in his face. Much like the maze they're in, it just feels like an avoidable dead end. With how much the other has insulted the other's life, now for both to say the other had it easier when they've already cited how the other's life sucks just feels cheap to me. You can either insult the other person for having a shitty life, or you can brag that your life is even shittier. You can't have both. But do you know what you can have? More motherfucking pig, baby! J.K. Simmons was booked for 3 entire episodes, and they are getting their money's worth, damn it! Pig baby sweet! The 3 are pursued by all of the people they, or more accurately, Kez, has wronged over the entire season, and the 3 have to race their way through the maze. In the chaos, Ryan and Minky scale the maze wall, run along the correct path, and find themselves at Kez's castle. But not before one last obstacle.
Hey, what? We're the band.
So this episode isn't too awful. Upon evading their pursuers, both Ryan and Mingy and the audience are introduced to Kez's frequently mentioned roommate, Morgan. She's an entire ass castle. The guy in the picture that they thought was Morgan was just a passenger named Jeremy. A passenger named Jeremy who Morgan is extremely bitter towards Kez about. Apparently Kez took him from Morgan, but before we can get any elaboration, Kez reassures Morgan that everything is okay, cause now Ryan and Mingy can live with Morgan so she won't be lonely. This entire time, Kez meant to pawn Ryan and Mingy off in order to pay for whatever mistake she made. If this season has seemed pretty light on Kez working through her problems, despite me expositing them in the second episode, it's primarily because they are all saved for the last 2 episodes of the show. We learn in this episode that Jeremy was Morgan's caretaker, fixing parts of the broken castle. Broken denizen? Fixing parts of Morgan while other passengers came and went from her, constantly abandoning her. However, Jeremy was the one passenger who was constantly with Morgan, never leaving her, which was part of his problem. Jeremy was on the train in the first place because he accidentally killed his sister and mother in a car crash and was racked with survivor's guilt about the entire thing. As such, he spent most of his time on the train trying to repair Morgan and take care of her, not really dealing with any of the problems he was supposed to be working through. Kez, who was living with Morgan, tried to help him manage his guilt, and eventually, she succeeded. However, she succeeded a little too well, giving Jeremy an exit. In the process of Jeremy leaving, Morgan lost her caretaker of 5 years unexpectedly without the chance to say goodbye. Kez maintains that it wasn't her fault, that she was only trying to help Jeremy in the short term, not the long term, but the quote-unquote damage was already done. She was trying to be helpful, but she wasn't considering how her actions might impact others, and then never made amends with the people she unintentionally hurt. Sound familiar? This is actually a really compelling backstory for Kez. She was doing what she was literally programmed to do, helping a passenger through awful trauma, and she succeeded in her job. But in the process, she hurt someone who she considered a friend. And when Morgan furiously kicked her out, calling her inconsiderate, she then internalized those problems and carried them with her in the future. And now, whenever she tries to help others, she often course corrects way too hard and becomes unhelpful. She internalized her feelings of being a screw-up and never really progressed beyond that. At least, not until Ryan and Mingy, where she genuinely did help them on several occasions. She means well, honestly. She just has a hard time properly showing it. Going on to the next episode. Sorry, forgot. The steward is here now. The steward crashes through the car, but it is clear that this time something is weirder than usual. The voice coming through is solely Amelia's, with her saying that the passengers are on their own now. The implication of this is that Amelia successfully took over the train from 1-1, and while it seems abrupt now, This setup will be important for the next season, but we'll just have to wait and see how that turns out. Regardless, the steward explodes and the train supposedly resets because right as Mingy and Ryan's numbers are about to change, they default back to their original scores. More dejected than ever, Ryan has now elected to hole up in the castle. Hole up in Morgan? Oh wait, no. Okay, nope. Hole up in the castle. It is. Yep, that's infinitely better. When Mingy attempts to comfort Ryan, he admits to almost taking an exit while Mingy was trapped, calling himself garbage for even considering taking it, and decides to just wallow away in this castle for the rest of his days, just like Jeremy would have. But the important thing to remember is, Jeremy got help, and so can Ryan when he's woken up by a strange buzzing noise. As he gets closer and closer to the source, he starts to recognize more and more until he sees what it is. Mingy playing his mini-synth. After all, Ryan's been practicing ever since he left, and Mingy can't be dead weight when they start playing in New York. Ryan and Mingy have a heart-to-heart, with Mingy forgiving Ryan for his intrusive thought of leaving him, while simultaneously apologizing for all of the intrusive thoughts he has had that has held him back from supporting Ryan in their band. What if they fail? What if they're no good? What if they never sell a single album? After realizing that his life was becoming like Jeremy's, never learning to move forward from their uncertainty, Mingy promises that he will always be by Ryan's side. Ryan's stuck with him, so now Ryan is stuck with him. And as the two play, Mingy finally overcomes his fears and uncertainties regarding his passion for music and earns his exit. But he doesn't take it. Sure, he earned his exit, but he just got done saying how he will never leave Ryan behind. He's not leaving without him. Morgan tries to rush the process to the point of nearly killing Mingy, but it's not enough. Either both of them leave, or neither of them leave. When Morgan blames Kez for making her relive her trauma, Mingy and Ryan defend Kez, saying that she was only trying to help someone that both she and Morgan loved, and that Morgan is responsible for her own reactions. And for what it's worth, Morgan agrees. So, she decides to take responsibility for willingly letting in all of the people Kez wronged so that they can kill her. But instead of running from the people who want to hurt Kez, Ryan and Mingy hold their ground and make Kez stay so that she can do what she should have done in the first place. Apologize.
I'm sorry. I tried to ignore everything, but it just keeps hurting everyone. I'm sorry.
But after everything Kez has done, a simple apology isn't enough to fix what she has done. But for most of the denizens aside from Monarch Martindale, it's a good start. It's never too late to say you're sorry. While I do find Kez to be hands down my least favorite companion in Infinity Train, I would be lying if I said her story didn't have merits. While I dislike how a good chunk of her dialogue is written, she does have good aspects to her character arc. Even though she's my least favorite, she's not irredeemably bad or anything close to it. By the end of it all, the only one who doesn't forgive Kez is Morgan. But the two agree to work on it together as Kez makes amends. And while everyone is apologizing to one another, Ryan and Mingy finally apologize to each other. Ryan apologizes for pushing them too hard too fast, and Mingy apologizes for letting his fears get in the way of supporting them. And with their problems finally resolved, the two leave. Well, not immediately. There is still one thing that hasn't been done yet. One thing that is absolutely vital in order for everything to be made right. Fuck yeah. And to close out our season, Ryan and Mingy, sometime in the near future, play at a club in Utica, New York, their dream spot from when they were younger. And the two play a familiar song. I'm expecting this video to be about the same length as the Infinity Train Book 2 video, since I have about as much to say about it as I do Book 2, and nowhere near as much to say about it as Book 3.
I'm killing you. I'm killing you. I don't care about anything else. I don't give a shit about anything else.
Book 4 of Infinity Train is, unfortunately, my least favorite season in the show. It's a fun time, to be sure, but this time around the season was way too light for my personal taste, given what the show had already established. Going from Season 3's ending, with a teenager getting disintegrated right before my eyes while kicking and screaming, and then going into Season 4 where things are mostly hunky-dory, it's all just a little bit too much mood whiplash for me, even though I watched these seasons over 6 months apart from one another. Furthermore, while I do find some relatability in Mingy's arc of trying to find a passion that he can stick with in the midst of proper expectations, that's kind of where the relatability stops for me. Now, Tulip has a similar thing going on with her arc, where her parents are divorced and mine aren't, so therefore I don't find her as relatable. But what sets Tulip above Ryan and Mingy and Kez for me is that because she's the first protagonist of the show, she's written more so to be a POV character for us to learn about the world of the train. So her relatively weaker personal writing has a different payoff. Now, this isn't to say that Ryan and Mingy are poorly written characters. Far from it. While there are a few bumps, like at the start of episode 8 where they try to pull the whole Shrek-ass struggle Olympics, they are by and large great characters with good writing and voice acting. It's just that this time I didn't connect to them as much as I did for others. That also isn't mentioning Kez, but hey, dead horses. But in spite of all of that, for all of the problems I have with this season, two things are still clear. For one, I still like this season. Even though it is my least favorite of all 4 seasons of Infinity Train, it isn't necessarily because season 4 is that bad, but more so that the other seasons are that good. Even despite that, this season, just like all of the others, has clear merits with its main duo, its lighter tone after the bummer of season 3, and it's still as well made from a production standpoint as ever. The second thing about this season is that even despite all of my gripes, the fact is, the season is over. I don't have to watch Ryan, Mingy, and Kez if I don't want to. That's the benefit of serialized anthologies. From season to season, you get different stories in one wider connected narrative, and you don't have to stick with characters you don't like for that long. But the fact is, even if I'm not obligated to stick with these characters, I did still like them. I still liked their journey. Infinity Train so far has 4 seasons to its name, with 4 different sets of main characters, and I have liked each and every single one of them. So far, even though Ryan and Mingy are not my favorite, this show is still successful with each season. Season 4 was never intended to one-up Season 3, but rather it was intended as a breather between Season 3 and Season 5, both of which had heavier themes. As such, a lot of the problems I have with this season come down to simply that. Personal problems. Now, if this was the last season of the show, that would be a slightly different story. If this season was the note that the show ended off on, then admittedly, that would be a relatively weak note to end on. But thankfully, given the lingering plot thread of Amelia's uprising, and from the screenshots that we have gotten shortly after Season 4, it's looking like Season 5 is going to be yet another promising season, being centered around Amelia as the protagonist. It isn't super clear whether this season is a flashback, or if it's post-Season 3, or some combination of the two, but all the same, I look forward to covering it next. More on this season to motherfuck. In 2021, Infinity Train was cancelled after Season 3, with the already greenlit Season 4 serving as the final season of the show. This is frustrating. Not only is it frustrating to see a spectacular show get cut in half and snuffed out before it was done telling the story that it wanted to tell, but the reason why it got cancelled is even worse. One of the main reasons Infinity Train was cancelled was because of a result of the Warner Bros. Discovery merger upending a large portion of Cartoon Network's productions. Moreover, during COVID, when HBO Max released, in order to drive viewership to the service, they made Season 3 of Infinity Train exclusive to that new service. To me, they wouldn't have done this if they didn't think, on some level, that Infinity Train was popular enough to garner that first influx of viewers. But by completely switching to a new, unproven streaming service, especially in the midst of Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus cornering most of the market, Infinity Train Season 3 was unable to bring in satisfactory numbers, and was promptly canned. To me, this is a beat-for-beat repeat of the Chibi Robo problem. Now, is Chibi Robo unpopular in America because Western gamers just don't like it? Or is it because half of the games were never localized, one of the games was sold exclusively at Walmart in between the gardening and handgun aisles, and the fourth game was an underwhelming 3D platformer that released in between a slew of other, better made and more recognizable 3D platformers that had to succeed, or else Chibi Robo would go under? Was it the constant stream of mismanagement what killed Chibi Robo? Or was it because Western audiences just didn't like it? Infinity Train didn't lose steam because it wasn't catching on, but rather because Warner Bros. Discovery made it infinitely harder to catch on and continue in the first place. However, the main thing that makes this most frustrating, in my opinion, is the fact that this isn't an isolated incident. If it were a situation where Infinity Train just wasn't pulling its weight from the very start, then it getting cancelled would suck, yes, but there would at least be some reason. There would be some understanding. But the mistreatment of Infinity Train is just one example in a pattern of behavior of David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, repeatedly making unpopular, counterproductive, and downright unethical decisions with the media under his company's control. Fully finished Batgirl movie that could have taken some of the heat off of The Flash crashing and burning? Can it? Fully finished Coyote vs. Acme movie? Can it? The dozens of animated shows that you could have found on HBO Max a few years ago? Removed all of them to prevent paying artist residuals. To me, Infinity Train is completely blameless in its own cancellation, and that is, to repeat the running adjective, frustrating. It is frustrating to see one of the best shows that Cartoon Network has ever made get cut off at the legs because of a series of poor business decisions made by one bafflingly incompetent dumbass, all of which being outside of the show's control. If that isn't frustrating, it is damn infuriating. But did you catch what I just said? One of the best shows that Cartoon Network has ever made. While it is so easy to just focus on the end of Infinity Train and all of the real-world problems surrounding it, I don't want that to be this show's legacy. While I can't ignore it, I would rather focus on what this show did do and what it was able to accomplish. The first season of Infinity Train gave us an interesting mystery series starring a smart but immature teenager whose first instinct to conflict was to shut down and run away. Through her, we get introduced to this show, its world, and its wider tone and themes as she fully comes to terms with her parents' divorce and how she responds to trauma, ending with her facing her problems head-on and confronting the worst-case scenario version of herself. The second season gave us a compelling personal drama about one person's search for her own identity in the shadow of her former self, despite self-doubt, overactive paranoia, and a system that is top to bottom designed against her as an entity on the train. Through friendship and her own self-reflection, she is able to beat the system and emerge as her own person, with her own friends, her own interests, and her own name, providing both a satisfying arc on its own as well as a beautiful allegory for many queer individuals. The third season gave us a bleak reality check about two people indulging in their own toxic habits and behaviors regardless of their consequences. It reminds us that while some people are able to recognize their own flaws and grow as people, some aren't able to achieve that growth, and if they spiral for too long, there might not be anyone to save. But in spite of that, we should never, ever stop trying to improve ourselves and grow out of our prejudices, biases, and toxic behaviors. And finally, the fourth season gave us a wholesome and relatively light-hearted character drama about two friends reuniting, getting over their problems on an individual and group level, and pursuing their dreams together, better and happier than ever. Infinity Train lasted for 4 seasons, living between 2019 and 2021, and it should have run longer. It should have been able to run for as long as it needed to in order to fully tell all of the gripping and emotional stories that it needed to. It should have lasted longer, but it was cut short for profit. And I don't think I will ever stop wondering about what else this show could have accomplished. But that's okay, because what it was able to show us, tell us, and teach us both was and is incredibly valuable. The stuff that is here is important, so I forgive it. I forgive Warner Bros. Discovery, and I forgive this show's cancellation. In the middle of writing this script, it was announced that the rights to Coyote vs. Acme were purchased by Ketchup Entertainment, the same company who handled production and distribution of The Day the Earth Blew Up. If Coyote vs. Acme, a movie that was allegedly completely wiped off the face of the earth, can be salvaged and continued, I see no reason why Infinity Train can't also make a comeback. But the thing is, I don't think I need it to. As much as I would love this show to be picked up for the rest of its seasons, I don't think I need it in order to be content. I am happy with the show that I got. Regardless of its future, what I have right here and right now is 4 remarkable seasons of TV coming together into a beautiful package that I am confident everyone can find a story and moral in. It is, in my opinion, the best show that Cartoon Network has ever made. More on this season to follow. More on Book 3 to follow. More on this season to follow. What more is there to say?